Yo, what's poppin', everybody? It's the No Level Cap Podcast. We back once again with the crew. I want you to give me a minute to introduce my incredible co-hosts. We've got the Black Daredevil and the secret weapon of No Level Cap, Terrence Flowers. What's up, Terrence?
Hey, what's going on, people? I'm doing well. I got I know I already told you all this, but I got to see the Sword Art Online movie last week, the newest progressive movie. It was good. I enjoyed it. You and I, Sage, we've had this conversation about how many movies are they gonna do? Because if they have 100 floors and this movie they were only on the 5th floor, so I'm like, are you all just gonna keep making movies, or are you gonna kind of like eventually like start to skip around?
I mean, like the progressive novels, I think they pretty long, and like the whole point was to kind of stretch out like how much time he spent on each floor. They could at some point just transition into doing like a TV show.
Yeah, I know that I think they announced a new project. Was it yesterday? I think there was a new Sword Art Online project that got announced. I didn't look much into it, so I don't know if it's a movie, show, or what. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I'm good. Ready to talk some Nintendo.
It's something that we rarely say around here, but yeah, I am pretty excited to talk about some Nintendo. Next up, we got the living cartoon and the man with the golden voice, Rakeem Beck. What's up, Rakeem?
Oh man, just having another day in the life of an African American gentleman, and I must say, I had fun today working on a small film festival project. It was a 1-minute film that had to be written, produced, and made in a single day. So that was fun. It's actually my second or third project of that type I've worked on. I found those very entertaining. They could be long days and longer projects, but these short projects, they're just right. So I'm in a good mood on that one. I'm ready to talk about these games too, because there's actually kind of a little bit of crossover on some of these games as well. So you might see some of them, of course, not the main Nintendo games, but some of the other games that got announced. Might see those as well on other consoles or PC. So I'm interested in the conversation today.
Hey, I'm totally with you because there was like a lot of overlap on this. Next up, we got the collector of collectors and the master of Twitch, Will Coleman. What's up, Will?
Not much, man. It's been a busy week for me. But other than that, I just kind of been relaxing, sitting back, playing some multiplayer games with my friends here and there. And I finally picked up another copy of Dragon's Crown on the PS3. That's gonna be coming to our house soon. I'm doing that to pull my old character out of there from 9 years ago, so I can have it on my PS4 version. So hey, I can wait for that to get here.
I have my copy as well, so let me know if you want to play some games one day, bro.
All right.
Y'all hear that the developer, I think the actual developer of Dragon's Crown, not Vanillaware, but like what's it, Kamatani?
Yeah, George Kamatani.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, y'all hear that he was working on like another game and he was like close to being, at least announced, if not released.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been announced he's been working on something, and it just kind of appeared out of nowhere. Like I just saw the news on it, and it was like,
oh yeah,
he's like almost done with it or something, or like at least over 50 to 60, 70% done. And I'm like, Jesus.
Did he work on Aegis Rim or Aegis Rim, whatever? Yeah.
Yeah, he did 13
Sentinels, I guess what I should have said.
13, I'm gonna say 13 Sentinels, Grim Grimoire, Dragon's Crown, and Odin Spear. That's the other game I'm thinking.
Oh, so he's worked on all of those.
Legitimately.
Okay.
So yeah, all legitimately the next big Vanillaware project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's essentially what I was asking. Yeah.
He talked about this. This was brought up, I think, in 2020 or 2019, and he was like, at first he was like, yeah, we're starting work on this next big project. You probably won't hear about it for several years. And then like a week or so ago, I think he like was like, yeah, that project I was talking about, yeah, we getting ready, we almost ready to talk about it. I was like, okay, so that's what's up.
That's great.
I mean, yeah, that's one of those studios that you never. I mean, like I can't like. It's got one of those high pedigrees that people just generally with, so.
Yeah, it's kind of like what's your developer, Rakeem, the one who did Hades?
Supergiant.
Yeah, it's kind of like Supergiant, where I feel like they make critically acclaimed games, but they just need that one game to really push them into the mainstream, and I think that's the case with the Vanillaware is they just need that one game.
Hades was the game for Supergiant.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I was talking to Sage about this before. I had a coworker who was talking about getting his kids into gaming, and his daughter requested Hades. She's like 9.
Hey. She on the right path already.
Challenging game to start at 9, but hey, I'm with it. I mean, that's what we used to play, all the hella challenging games growing up. So there you go.
It's true.
It couldn't have been that the parent of that kid that Trey was friends with. You want what now? You want Hades? Not in my house. If you say that about Mortal Kombat, you come asking for a game called Hades, like
No.
The devil is a lie.
No. See, what you need to
Devil is
do
a
is
lie.
take the Yu-Gi-Oh approach and call it Hades. There you go.
oh yeah, yeah.
That wouldn't have worked in my house. My mama
Okay.
threw away my Yu-Gi-Oh cards. So
Lastly, we've got the One Punch Man and the Master of Combos, Mr. Devin Butts. What's popping, Devin?
Not too bad. I'm here off work, so that's definitely good. This new job that I recently started it's not too bad. It's not a hard job, but as we all know, people make jobs hard. People you work with, so that's just part of life. This week been pretty good. But actually, gotten back into a game I used to play that I said I wasn't gonna play no more, but they just like come back. Started playing Hearthstone again. I gotta admit, I love card games. I love the creativity of card games. Just being able to, even though sometimes the meta stuff can just be like, oh, you trying to be creative and make some cool, good decks on your own? No. But it's still fun. Actually, me and Rakeem, we checked out the Tekken stuff this week and showed off the mechanics for that game, Tekken 8. We also took a flashback to the past, looking at some older games. We were looking at some Dead to Rights.
Man, I forgot about that game.
I love Dead to Rights.
I love it.
Oh my god!
I don't even know how we went down that rabbit hole. We just started looking at older games on PS2, Kill Switch, Stranglehold. I don't know if you.
No, I remember Stranglehold. I remember Kill Switch. I think
Stranglehold.
Kill Switch was like the original game that was supposed to be the Halo
covers.
killer.
Yeah.
It was not that.
Oh no, Killzone was supposed to be that.
Well, yeah, I know, but I'm
Killzone
saying
was
like
different.
originally,
Kill
maybe
Switch
I'm
was,
thinking of something else.
yeah, Kill Switch
Switch
was a
was a
game
game
with
with
third
cover
person with a cover. It was supposed to be
it
like
was a
Okay,
cover
here.
never mind.
Yeah.
Then I guess it was
Yeah.
Kill. I know there's like so many games that Sony used to toss out. I was like, this is going to be the Halo killer. So
Yeah.
I know it
that
wasn't just
Killzone.
Killzone.
And oddly
Turns
enough,
out the Halo killer was just Halo.
I was going to say Killzone. Oh, actually, Killzone got killed. So Killzone killed itself as Halo did, I guess. So I guess they
Guerrilla
both
Games
killed
has
themselves.
better things to do. So
That's true.
But yeah, other than that, pretty good. Watched the Nintendo Direct, definitely interesting. As everybody else said, I'm ready to get into this discussion because it was some pretty cool stuff at this Direct. So,
Of course, I am Sage Ashford, the man who won't shut up. If you didn't know, No Level Cap goes live every Monday morning. We appear on YouTube for video fans, but if you prefer the audio version, we're live on Spotify as well. We're also on TikTok. Give us a follow before the government goes ahead and bans the Clock app for good. So, like everybody said, we did see the Nintendo Direct. That is a little bit dated, but I do want to get y'all's thoughts on it. But I also want to talk about like how Nintendo is going to perform for the remainder of the year. And then also like just the idea of this could possibly be Nintendo Switch's last year. But first, let's just go ahead and get into it. What did y'all think of the Nintendo Direct? This is Nintendo's entire lineup for the first half of 2023, all the way into, you'd figure, July. Was it good enough for y'all to stand out, or does that matter considering Sony doesn't really have anything and Microsoft, they do have Hi-Fi Rush, but that's pretty much all they have. So what did y'all think of it? What would you give it, Rakeem?
I'd probably give it about like a 7.5 to an 8. I feel like a lot of the games on there what we expected. And in some cases, like in the case of Zelda at the end, I wanted to see a little bit more. I felt like they didn't show enough. They gave us a release date, of course, but I mean, I was like, what's the new hook of this game? This is the last game, Breath of the Wild, was like a big freaking deal in the gaming community. To this day, it's still being replicated. And now, he got a truck. That's like, hey, it's Breath of the Wild with a few new elements. I wish I could get some more information about that. But overall, I thought it did a good job of balancing stuff from like the past and currency. There are games, of course, we saw Pikmin, the Return of Pikmin, of course. Pikmin personally has never done anything for me, but make me just scratch my head and like, okay. And seeing a new Katamari game, that's kind of fun. But another game where I'm like, scratching my head. Okay, it's a game. The one that surprised me, I think there were two games that surprised me. The first one was the Deca Police game. I saw that game and I was like, oh man, a cool new kind of investigative RPG. And I was like, man, there's somebody on the development team who just really liked Deca Ranger, the Super Sentai as a kid. And it's like, look, I'm making an RPG about that. I don't give some kind of way I'm getting it in there.
Well,
So I can't. Well, go ahead. What about to say, Sage?
I mean, like I know, like I thought the same thing, and then I actually came back to my Japanese, and I was like, oh wait, Deca just means detective.
It does,
Just,
but it's just the way it was presented with like the 5 members of the group and the over the topness. They went to like VR and stuff like that. You know,
they did get like some superhero type shit by the end.
I'm mad you right about that Deca thing because now it clicks in my head about the game Dynamite Cop. They just call it Dynamite Deca in Japan.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But I gotta say, I think that was my personal favorite when I saw that was interesting. Just because it's a different twist on RPGs, and I got to shout out the Nintendo right now. They the RPG guys. Like, you go there, they just laying on RPGs. If you like RPGs, they got you. They still got the Octopaths. They got the old RPGs. We got the Etrian Odyssey collection that's coming out with the first 3 Etrian Odysseys
That
HD.
felt so random.
It did, but I actually, surprisingly enough, you know, I'm not a Nintendo guy. I was a big fan of Etrian Odyssey. I find those games very fun and not easy to get into because they are hardcore dungeon crawlers, but something about them is relaxing to me, like just creating your own map or whatever and creating the levels. And there was another investigative game I could not freaking remember. I have my list right here.
Is it a Master?
Oh wait, the Master Raincoat.
Yeah, Master Detective Archives Raincoat.
Yeah, that was actually a pretty cool. It felt like Nintendo's version of like, we saw what y'all did, Square Enix, with that Murder Soul Suspect game, but you just put a little more anime in there and make it more interesting. We got you. Overall, though, I think it did enough to just like, okay, I'm interested in the lineup coming up, but nothing really like wowed me. I was just more surprised about some of the games that are coming back. Metro Prime Remake, of course, as well. That was the big one. That was the big one. I think everyone was pretty excited about that one as well. But nothing really super wowed me. Besides that, you know, I was pleasantly surprised at seeing some older games come back. But nothing new was like incredible. Knock your socks off. This is the next big thing. Even Zelda. Like I expected more from Zelda. So I'll say about 7.5 to me.
Okay. Terrence, what would you give it, man? And what did you think of it overall?
I think the score that I would give it, I'm gonna go on I'm gonna give it an alpha score. I'd say a B. So I guess maybe
that's where I was going too, like as far as the score goes.
Yeah, kind of like a B. Maybe kind of like what Rakeem was saying, like 7.5, 8, I guess. I think there was some really good stuff there for Nintendo fans, but if you're like, you know, on the outside looking in, like if you don't have a Switch, it's like, I mean, I guess that's all right, but probably there was nothing there that I think that would ultimately win you over to buy a Switch if your mind wasn't convinced already. I mean, if you're not already a fan of Zelda, if you're not already a fan of a lot of the remasters that they talked about, the fact that Game Boy and Game Boy Color and it was just Game Boy and Game Boy Advance. And Game Boy Advance. Game Boy Advance. Yeah. The fact that all those games are coming, I mean, if you weren't a fan of those to begin with, then I don't see anything that they presented winning you over. That being said, there was some good stuff there. I was actually, after I looked over everything again, I was kind of taken aback by how many remasters and like re-releases were actually mentioned in the Direct. There was nowhere near, it felt like, as much new stuff as there was just like a lot of just old stuff coming back. I mean, even the fact that freaking Ghost Trick of all things, the Capcom game, they brought that back. I'm like, I mean, that's neat. That's good for them, but it just another re-release. And like you mentioned, Rakeem, I mean, Zelda, I really wish they had showed more. I thought they would have like dedicated a good 10 minutes to just Zelda, like showing us more in-depth gameplay. I get that, you know, you could save that for its own Direct, but it's kind of like you said, Sage, with the whole Starfield thing. It's like, why wait? You know, you have everybody here now, just go ahead and do it, you know, but I mean, it is what it is. The Game Boy and Game Boy Advance stuff, them announcing that, I mean, that's cool.
Okay, did anybody else think those Game Boy games looked horrible? And I mean, like, I'm not saying, of course, you know, old games are going to look old, but like, those games look bad. Like, I don't know, like, I don't know if maybe it was the way that they emulated them. Maybe it was just my memory not remembering how bad Game Boy game, but like those games look like the Game Boy Advance games. I know what Game Boy Advance games are supposed to look like. They look fine to me. I was like, okay, cool. I looked at some of those Game Boy games and I'm like, no, something not right here. Like,
I think I'd have to see it in person because I mean, you are taking games that were like technically like 360p, like the Game Boy Advance games,
Yeah.
and putting them on an
Right.
HD console. So I don't
From
know.
what
I'd have
I-
to see it in person.
From what I remember, they look pretty true to what they now. The Game and Watch game that looked like trash because it kind of emulating like the actual Game and Watch style.
Yeah.
But I think I played most of those games that they showed on there. Like Tetris looked just like Tetris looked. The Super Wario World game, I had that one.
Oh yeah.
They all look. I
Doesn't
mean,
used to
it's just we're just so many years past that they look bad technically, but I think it doesn't look like anything was altered with them. I don't think, at least from what I was looking at. But I mean, they Game Boy, you get the little monochromatic calculated color. You know.
I'll put it this way. At least it's good that we have an avenue to get those games now. Because, yeah, I mean, as we all know, old Nintendo games, they're hard to come by. And if the game wasn't, if it didn't have like a lot of copies out there like that, then shoot, buying that stuff, it's super expensive. So, I mean, this is a good thing that they're doing. You know, I would like to, hopefully it holds up for whatever the next version of the Switch or whatever Nintendo does later on. They keep the same service. I freaking hate Nintendo for this. Don't come out with all this stuff on the Switch. Then we get to the next console and it's like we have a whole new service that starts it all over again. You have to buy everything again. Don't do that. Like if Nintendo fans forgive that, you all just get on the ground and just lick Nintendo's boot if that's the case. I mean,
you know that's
Nintendo's boot. They can lick something else. That's what they really do.
It's fancy. Like it's hardcore fans in every console, and like them hardcore fans, they'll tolerate and make excuses for everything a company does. They'll be like, oh well, you know, I don't think it was that bad. You know, it's like, no, it's terrible, is what it is. It's bad for you, and it's good for them because they get to make more money.
Yeah, but anyway, just to sum it all up, I thought it was fine. Like if you're a Nintendo fan, I think there was good stuff there for you. I mean, Metroid Prime Remaster, that was great. Baden Kaitos of all things getting remastered. Yeah, there was some good stuff there. Don't get me wrong, but I just like Rakeem. I don't think there was anything there that was just like blow your socks off good. You know, the fact that Metroid Prime was shadow dropped. I guess now we're waiting on Sony to see what game they shadow drop because Microsoft shadow dropped something Nintendo did.
Same thing I told
It's the shadow drop era now.
Yeah, Sony gotta put out something next State of Play. But yeah, overall, I'd give it a B. I think it was fine.
God of War Egypt available now.
God of War Egypt.
Whoa.
It was on remaster. Available now.
Will, what did you think of it, like overall?
I agree with them, man. I give it about like a B, maybe a little bit of a B minus, because looking back over it, because you know they do always put out like a recap image to kind of show exactly everything that they talked about. Looking back over that image, and I'm just like, wow, there's a lot of old stuff coming back. And the big things, you know, the Metroid Prime, the Zelda, awesome. The Pikmin never did anything for me, but that's cool. But then there's also looking at they still grinding on Mario Kart 8.
Oh my god,
man! When I saw that, I was like, "There's still DLC for that."
Yeah,
remember they said they were going to remaster like some dumb amount of tracks and just roll them out over the. Because like the reality is, we've long passed the point where they would consider doing another Mario Kart for this console. Yeah. Like the next Mario Kart is on whatever the Super Switch or whatever the fuck.
I mean, technically,
console,
the Switch never got like its own Mario Kart, right? Because Mario Kart 8 is from the Wii U, right?
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah.
That's a deluxe version, ain't it?
Yeah, it's the deluxe version. It has a little bit more offhand, but then they added more with this big expansion pass, and they still like pounding tracks out. So I think it's like supposed to be like another 40 or so tracks, and I'm just like, God damn, y'all really doing
Listen to the music.
You get your money's worth. I tell you that.
Yeah, you will get your money's worth for that game. I'll admit that. But the things that really kind of stuck out to me, and I'm finally glad to see it finally happening, is Advance Wars 1 and 2. I'm so glad we've gotten past this point now. I am so glad.
It took a year.
It did. all because of things that happened across the water. It was like, look, this is the second time this has happened with this game. We're going to have to do it again. So I'm just like, all right, hold it off. A whole year. I had to hold off on this. Now I can finally get it. But it's a solid look at things. A lot of it, as we know, is going to be multi-platform, like our Sea of Stars, the Dead Cells Return to Castlevania, the Mega Man Battle Network thing, which I think a lot of people may find themselves picking up if you love those games.
Oh, also the Etrian Odyssey collection is also available on PC, which surprised me.
Glad you said that. And I don't know. I was halfway considering picking it up, but 90. I think it's like 90 or $80 to get that
Oh
whole
yeah,
set.
you can buy them separately, but they do have
But
like
but they're 40 a piece though.
Yeah, it's stupid. I don't know what they were thinking.
Yeah,
The game's old.
Aren't
put that
those?
on
Are they?
Atlas.
Yeah. I was just gonna say that sounds like an Atlas move, and I had to think about it for a minute. I was like,
Yeah.
is that
Atlas.
game developed by? Is it published or is it developed by them?
I think that's developed by them.
Okay, then yeah, that's an Atlas move totally.
That's
That's
an
on
Atlas
character
move.
for them.
Mm-hmm.
You gonna
They
pay
do shit like
$40 for this Dragon Quest style combat? Yeah.
Even Dragon
But-
Quest don't have combat to look like that no more. They gave up.
Yeah, they did. but yeah, beautiful thing. It's quite a few games in here that intrigue me, and like I said, I'm glad Advance Wars 1 and 2 is happening. I'm glad the entry analysis thing is happening despite that price tag. And the big surprise for me was that Summer de Amigo. I'm like, y'all went
Yeah.
way back into my childhood and say, hey, y'all remember that little monkey with the maracas? He back. I'm like, okay, sure.
Man, anything can come back at this point.
Man, I told y'all I stopped making fun of Devin with that Jack Fo shit because I was like, it's just a matter of time. Like, it don't make no difference what the IP is at this point. Somebody gonna be like, hey, remember that IP that nobody remembered and nobody care about? And Jack wasn't
You
even
got
that.
it.
But like, it's hella IPs where they be like, remember them IPs that don't nobody give a damn about? Well, we reached back into 30 years ago and we didn't remade it. And you like,
If
what was the
Bond
game,
Kaidos can come back, anything can come back.
Yeah.
Escape, let's
Act
go!
Razor.
Ra-
That was,
Yeah.
that was the
No
only
reason
one with
at
on
all.
Super Nintendo. Like, bro,
Act Razor was the point at which I was like, let me stop making fun of that Jack Fo. Like, that
Yeah,
can actually
like,
happen
ain't
now.
nobody-
They
like,
really
anybody
remade it
asked for
too.
that.
Like it didn't even play
Yeah,
the same. They got
ground
new stuff
up.
in it.
They
Yeah.
ground up
game.
remake. I said, okay, that's just who y'all are now. Like, everybody just trying to go back and dig into the past and find something that people kind of sort of cared about because you might be able to get some sales off of it. Like, that's where we at right now. Speaking of,
that's
I
good
mean,
for me.
like, overall, I would give this like a B minus.
Mhm.
I've seen people say this is like the worst direct ever, and I'm like, I don't know about all of that. It was fine.
That's them
Like,
people that want nothing but first party games. They can suck a dick.
this had first party games though. It had like
Yeah.
They wanted more.
no, what they wanted was AAA first party. You know,
Yeah,
they was looking for the new Zelda, the new Super Mario, the new Smash, the new Mario Kart, and if they don't get 3 out of 5 of the AAA games, they're gonna be like, this is ass. This is the worst Nintendo Direct ever. Hey, come on, man. Like, you know what this is, and we're gonna get into it later on, but like it's about over with for the Switch. Okay, it's 6 years on the market. It's straining at the developers are straining at the edges of like what the system can do. That's why you're getting games that run at like fucking 15 frames per second. Shit look like a Viewmaster. So like, you know what it is, and like
That's an etch a sketch.
Oh my god.
and then like the frame rate, like not just the frame rate, but like the resolution be ass now. Like it be sub 720p. Like fuck. And that's in dock mode. Like these games, they not looking great, bro. And it's time for a new console. And if it's time for a new console, it ain't no reason for us to be dropping all these top tier Nintendo first party. Like it ain't no reason for that. So like I going into this, I knew it wasn't gonna be that crazy of a direct. I thought it did what it needed to do.
Right.
They said it was gonna show games for the first half of the year. You kind of got that. You got what's the February game?
February
Octopath,
game?
huh?
Yeah, Octopath is a February game. Mhm.
Yeah.
So you got Octopath.
I mean,
got
Metroid is a February game.
Actually,
Yeah.
it's Metroid. Metroid is the first party February game. So you got Octopath,
point.
you got Metroid,
I would love to
you
play
got
that right now,
Bayonetta
right now.
Origins coming out in March.
Yeah.
Then in
Mhm.
April you got Omega Strikers and like a couple of, and actually
Kirby's next
Return
month,
to
right?
Dream. No,
Oh, sorry,
Kirby
go
is this month.
Oh, this one. Oh, it is this month. Okay.
Kirby's Return to
Yeah,
Dreamland
right.
Deluxe that comes out this month.
Mhm.
You've got Advance Wars 1 and 2 coming out in April. They put they got a couple of in Tron Identity. They got the random ass Tron game that was kind of
That was so random. And it's a visual novel?
That's what it looks
I
like.
was like,
Tron?
all right.
It's
that
a
was,
about a game.
Tron
It
is one of those
about a
IPs that is it feels like it's never done the justice that it deserves. It's like
yeah.
Tron is so cool, but they kind of just don't do anything with it. It sucks.
Yeah.
The best thing Tron had was getting
Kingdom Hearts. See?
That
Yeah,
and
the
I
same
well, I don't want
idea.
to turn into a Tron conversation, but yeah, there's so much more they could do with Tron. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
It's so much.
but
Also,
yeah,
there was
like
a
you
Oh, a lot of DLC expansions in this one too for like the established games.
I was
noticed that.
definitely looking because I got a list that they announced somewhere in the neighborhood of 29 games. I think it's 29 because I didn't. They did a sizzle reel at one point that was just like, oh, here's a bunch of games back to back to back, and
That's true.
we couldn't even be asked to like give them more than a few seconds. I didn't jot those down. The rest, it was like 29 games, which is a sizable amount considering most of them were scheduled to come between now and like July. So I mean, like I was like, okay, this is pretty solid. Metroid, that was a nice little surprise. Shadow drop at that. I said, okay, fuck yeah. I am very much with Keem and Terrence when they were like, Zelda only got 2 minutes. Like I was doing I did a live react to the direct, but before that, I was like playing. Actually, I didn't even play a video game. I like was talking about what would be at the show, and multiple times as I was talking about what would be at the show, I was like, just expect Zelda to take up 10 to 15 minutes of the show. They said it was 40 minutes. You probably get 25 minutes and then Zelda. And nah, they was like, yep, we just gonna put Zelda at the tail end for 2.5 minutes and then we up out of here. And I was like, yeah, y'all know this comes out in like 3 months, right?
You would have what?
And just like Terrence said, like more likely than not, they're gonna do a separate direct. But like in the past, they've done direct. In fact, they've done too many directs sometimes. Where they'll like I remember when they used to do the Smash directs, they would like put 40 minutes on just like mechanics of the game, and I'm like, yo, bro, or 40 minutes on the additional modes. I'm like, I understand Smash make a lot of money, but come the fuck on, bro. Like, you don't need 40 minutes for this. They get so granular with some of their directs. So I just assumed that this time around it'd be kind of the same. They did the same thing with Xenoblade, which is a franchise I actually fuck with. Xenoblade 2, they did like a direct that got like really granular in terms of like what would be in the game, what kind of side content you get, amiibos, all that type shit. And so I was like, okay, well, they'll probably do that, but also you'll get 10 minutes of gameplay to see what, 2 minutes, and then they was out of there. I'm like,
all right.
Yeah, I guess. The big surprise to me, like Keem said, Deca Police, I was really into that. I thought that looked really cool. I was in debating Kaito's The Rumor, and then I saw what they wanted the remake to look like, and I was like, well, I guess I won't be playing that. Xenoblade, of course, they like hinted at some stuff in Xenoblade. I don't want to look too deep into that because I have not beaten Xenoblade 3 yet. I just started it not like last year. I beat 1 and 2 last year and then like looked at a little bit of 3. And then after that, I was like, okay, I got to get back to this Cold Steel. Almost done with that. I'll get back around in Xenoblade 3 presumably before the DLC comes out, or like the story DLC. So like that, I was pretty interested in. Fire Emblem Engage, they had that. I was like, okay, I kind of care, but kind of don't care. I think they had my boy Hector in it from Fire Emblem 7, which is cool. But ultimately, Fire Emblem Engage's art style was just such a turnoff to me compared to like what they had going with Fire Emblem Three Houses. So I just don't. I'm not sold on that, but I might come back around. I still need to play Three Houses. So we'll see. But overall, yeah, B- just because it was a solid show. They even had Sea of Stars, Will's game. Will drafted. They finally got a nice release date. I'm like, okay, that's what's up. So finally. And then of course, Octopath Traveler 2 was there. That goes without saying. Like, of course, I'm super excited for that. I'm not gonna play that on Switch because why would I do that to myself? I can play it on Steam.
Exactly.
So I'm just gonna get it on Steam, but still, it was nice to see it again and like the demo announcement. Man, when I tell you I've never went and gotten a demo so fast, like they was like, oh, it'll be available on Steam at like 9 a.m. I was like, bet. And as soon as I woke up, that was the first thing I did. I just downloaded the demo.
I got a funny story about that. So I don't know if you guys noticed, like it's a 3-hour demo, but I believe it's timed.
Oh no.
I believe so.
Yeah.
So
it's time for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
So
okay.
So funny enough, I was actually playing the demo and I fell asleep.
God damn it.
Oh no.
And I tried to come back to play it, and then like, I got back to playing it. Time was like, time's up. All right, you go ahead and save your data. We'll come get ready to converge it to the full game.
Now,
I didn't even get to do a battle.
I told King, I said, hey King, you might want to wake up. I don't think it's like in game time. I think it's like real time. Like
Real time,
even
yeah.
he was. I'm gonna tell y'all what screen he was on. He was on the save screen, knocked out on the save screen. I said, I think it might be time. You might want to play it. He's like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna play it. So
Yeah.
he woke up and I saw 3 hours of it. I said, yeah, it was. That's what I figured. It was like actual 3 hours. So yeah,
Okay,
but you can still play on Steam. So I
I was
guess you
gonna
can
say
play it
try it
again.
on
Yeah, I can
Steam.
still
You
play
know, you
on
got
Steam.
another
yeah,
shot.
go on Steam, bro.
I'm gonna do it during the day and night at night. I'll never make that mistake anymore.
I wonder how
Great
far you
idea.
can go.
The first chapter, which is
Okay.
like all 8, like several of the characters. You can do a lot in the first
Yeah.
3 hours, and like you could basically, as much as you can get done in the first 3 hours, like you just go wherever you want. There really isn't a limitation. There are some people that have been like using cheat engine on PC
Yeah.
to like get extra time and shit like that, kind of
I mean,
reset it.
that's always going to be the case.
I mean, I'm not
Still-
mad at them because a lot of those people, because like you can't go past chapter 1. So ultimately, if you like the game, you're going to have to buy it.
Yeah.
I think they just wanted to play it a little longer than just like the 3 hours that Square allotted to us. So
Yeah.
I'm not mad at them for that because like
Square.
it's not as if you can finish the game that way.
True.
Devin, what did you think, man? What did you think of the direct?
So I'm just gonna go ahead and say my score would be. It was gonna be a B plus, but I think I'm gonna echo Sage and say B minus, and that is due to the reasoning of was a lot of remasters on the list, which is fine, but I think more of those if more of those remasters had been of the level of Metroid Prime, I would have been like, because Baten Kato's, I'm like, I liked that game when I played it, but like Sage said, I'm like, I'm like, this looked like the same game, just like a little clarity,
They
more
cleaned up
clarity.
the image quality a little bit, and it was like that's it.
But it's like you go look at Metroid, like Metroid was no slouch on GameCube. Metroid was like one of the best looking games for a long time. But the drastic difference, like it's kind of dipping its toe into remake territory. That's how much better the game looks.
It's actually
Like
the next topic.
yeah, the game looked really good. I will say with Octopath, I wanted to say something about Square. I think they're doing a good job of doing demos because they give you like 3 hours to play a game. I know people talk about this game giving 3 hours. It's a great game. You can do what you want. I actually went and bought Trials of Mana when they released that demo. That demo was so good. I'm like, all right,
That demo was amazing.
where my wallet? Here you go. Here's your Air Square. So that's how you do a demo like that. Give somebody an ample good chunk of the game, like, and then transfer the save data over to the full game. Like, there's not many times this happened for me where a demo actually made me go out and buy the game. So shout outs to Square for that. Deca Police was probably my other favorite thing from the show. Just I was like, oh, got a detective art turn-based RPG. Like, this looks fire. Kirby was pretty cool. I think Kirby's a solid game, but it was just DLC, so it wasn't like nothing super spectacular. But
Not DLC, like it is a new game. Well, it is a game, like a full game, but it's also just like a port, like an updated port of like it's either GameCube or Wii.
Okay.
I think that's Wii.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, doesn't that fall under the like the same kind of remaster umbrella too? The way that they did treated that, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. That's right, because I was noticing when I was looking, I'm like, this doesn't look like the game that just dropped. So that makes sense now. I will say though, Nintendo is like the only company now that I think you could actually still play a game. Me and King was talking about this on the same screen in the same room. You can't do it on PlayStation, to my knowledge. You can't do it on Xbox. And it's just like a relic of the past. I will tip my hat to Nintendo for that, for still having games you can play in the same room, in the same house without having multiple consoles. You know, although playing on that Switch controller, like that's gotta give me a Pro controller, something. That little toothpick, like, bro, man, what I'm gonna do with that, man? I played on one before, and I was like, this ain't it. This is not it at all. We were playing Smash too. I'm like, this is not it.
I was just gonna say, I tried to play Smash on one of those Joy-Cons one time. I was like, and I don't even have like my hands aren't even that big, and I was like, yo, this is definitely not it. I can't do this.
Oh, man, you don't have to. A baby couldn't play Smash on that thing. But I think it was a solid overall. But the B minus is coming from what you all have already said, The Legend of Zelda. I looked at the time stamps. You know, they break it off and show you the chapters. I looked at the end. I'm like, Yeah, I looked at the end. I'm like, what's the last? Oh, Zelda. I looked. I'm like, that little old time like for Zelda. Like you said, everybody echoed it, and Sage was like we talk about what Starfield should have been like this big thing at the end of Xbox's developer direct. I'm like, this is y'all flagship game for the moment. This is gonna be probably like y'all console ending game. Like we look at like the lifespan and the history of the previous games, even 64, you had Ocarina of Time was like, I don't think right at the beginning, but then you had like Majora's Mask more on the outgoing of 64. GameCube, you had Wind Waker come in, then Twilight Princess was like the one that ended out. So now you got Breath of the Wild, now you got Part 2, Tears of the Kingdom. Like show, I mean, you showed us something, but it was like, oh, he got a little magical truck. He got a little magical flying thing. Yeah, you know, like. So I'm like, you gotta show us if this is the game that's gonna end the game. Like y'all gotta show us something, man. Like I can think of consoles, the PS2 when it went out with a bang. I'm talking about some just games pushing that console to the absolute limits.
God of War and everything.
Bro, God of War,
Final Fantasy 12.
That's the one.
Yeah.
That is the one.
Persona 4.
Yeah.
That is the one. Final Fantasy 12, Metal Gear Solid 3, Jack 3, those games were just like PlayStation 2 was like, oh my god, it's like I think PlayStation 3 kind of did it. I know for a fact PS2 was like, Last of Us. Even PlayStation 1, like you had Final Fantasy 9, like it was pushing out some games.
Some people would say Chrono Cross was like the swan song because like Chrono Cross probably like the best looking PS1 game. Like it looks really good.
No doubt. Yeah. But yeah, I think for the most part it was cool. Like I said, I didn't play Advance Wars. Well, actually I did. I played a little bit, so I wasn't too hyped for that, just personally. And again, with Biden Katos, if it had actually been like a remake, I probably would have been more excited for that one. But it was just like Sage, it's like, bro, this was cool back then, but like, bro, I don't even think that many people like
we took the Swiffer and we cleaned it up.
It's like I'm just like I'm looking at it, I'm like, that's all y'all did? Like, okay.
So excited because like I had never played that game, and then somebody said something about a remake, and I was like, man, I ain't heard nothing but good things. I hope they remake it. I hope it look dope. And then I finally see it, and I'm like, oh, this is one of those type of remasters.
Yeah.
And I mean, I since you're talking about it, I guess we might as well seek into that. Nintendo, they showed, a pair of games that they claimed were remasters at the event, and it was really more than two because they also had Kirby. But Metroid Prime to me looked like a remake, and Biden Kaitos looked like like an actual remaster. And like, I don't know, like, does it matter? Like, does the term matter? Like, what does that term? What do those terms mean anymore? Like, Devin, what do you like? Do those terms mean anything anymore? Because like, to me, Metroid Prime remastered looked like a remake.
They definitely matter because I remember specifically having a conversation. I don't know if it was with some of you all or somebody, but about Shadow Colossus came up. It's like, man, we need to remaster this, a remake. I'm like, they have a remake. There's a remaster and a remake.
Yeah.
The remaster came out on PS3. The remake was on PS4. They was like, no, I need like better graphics. I'm like, I am telling you,
PS4 had
go look at PS4
has that.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. Like, I don't think many games get that. And let me say one thing. Tales of Symphonia was on this list, wasn't it?
Yeah,
they showed Tales of Symphonia.
Yeah,
they did.
Bro, this week, I think.
If it
comes out on my birthday.
Look here, Namco. If y'all don't stop remastering that game, this game it's already been remastered. This game, you make it remake, bro. Y'all ain't doing nothing. This game don't look no different than it did on GameCube, bro. Like, please.
Yeah, I was gonna say, games. That's the PS3 one. That was the remaster.
There was no point. Like, what is the point of doing this again, bro? That's one of my favorite RPGs.
And it still doesn't run in 60 FPS.
It don't. It runs in 60 on the GameCube, don't it?
What you say, Will?
Don't it run on 60 on the GameCube?
Probably.
I think you're right, actually. Yeah, it does run in 60.
Because it don't run 60 here.
That's wild.
Yeah, they goofed it up. Yeah,
that's wild.
You're right, actually. Yeah.
For you to put out a game on a generation later and it run worse than the one on the original. Come on, bro.
See, Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne.
We ain't gonna talk about it. I finished that game. I'm happy with my life. There you go.
But I think those terms definitely matter because, like, basically, just from a basic remaster, they touch up the resolution, so
Yep.
you can like with Metroid. I saw a side by side. You can see more of the screen. Back in the GameCube, there was no HDMI, so everything was like at max like 480p, if that. So now you can see more of the screen. So that's what a remaster is, and just like clarity, polygons touched up. But that doggone Metroid Prime, it's like I said, it's got its toe in the water of Remake.
That game looks way prettier. Like
Yeah,
I saw like the difference between the OG Metroid
OG.
Prime and that game, and I was like,
Yeah.
nah, this. If every
That's night and
if
day.
every remaster looked like that, I'd be asking
Yeah,
for a lot of remasters.
I would be.
Yep.
I would definitely be okay with that. The biggest, like I said, Metroid Prime was nothing to scoff at on the GameCube, but the biggest problem of it on the GameCube, it looked murky. Like it had like this murky kind of muddy look to it. I don't know if it was style wise, but it just, you go back and look, it's like it looks kind of muddy. But the new this remaster looks great. But I think there's definitely, they ain't the same thing. They're definitely not the same thing. Even with like games like Final Fantasy VIII, they made a remaster of it. They brought it back out like HD or whatever. Then they did the
Does look better.
the remaster. I'm like, you can actually see their faces. Cause I was playing the game.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute,
The squad's quite handsome.
I was like, I don't remember
Pixelated
Squall
face.
having a mouth and facial features like this. So I'm like, this ain't the game. I thought, oh, this is a remaster. I'm like, okay, this is actually pretty cool. So yeah, I think that it definitely needs to be a difference. There are two categories, but again, they doing stuff like this. They open the ante. Games from now on go have to come out. Hey, we got a remaster. You can't put out that biting Kato's. That's a regress. That's a regression. Because I was like, I'm hyped for that game. I don't think a lot of people really play that game. That's one I played. I'm like, oh, I would love to see this game remade. They just like, we're gonna get this. We're gonna draw in some little pixels here, put a brush over. Yeah, there you go.
We'll just clean it up a little, make it look
Yeah,
all right for the people.
But I think that, but they did Metroid Prime. I was kind of blown away by that, man.
Terrence, what do you think, man? Like, is there really a difference between remaster and remake, or is it just that developers have gotten it confused and they just kind of use them interchangeably?
I think it can be a case where sometimes the developers use them interchangeably, but there is a difference, like what Devin said, to not like harp too much on what he said. I think one thing with Metroid Prime that really helps is also its art style. Even back then, it had a pretty distinct art style that kind of helped it stand out, and I think that's helped it to cross over with this remaster. You can definitely tell that in whoever worked on the remaster, I don't think it was Retro, was it?
I'm not
Yes,
sure.
I think it is.
Was it actually Retro? Oh, so they're pulling double
so.
duty working on this and 4, huh? Wow. Maybe that's why it's taking 4 so long. But yeah, you could tell that Retro actually cared about it's not a remake, because you can tell it's not redone from the ground up. I think that's the thing, is that the thing is with a remake builds everything from the ground up. Like Last of Us Part 1, that is a remake. The remaster that came out on the PS4, I mean, that takes the game from the PS3 and it kind of upscales the visuals and makes it look more refined. Sometimes it'll run at a better frame rate. That's a remaster. But in the case of Metroid Prime, it's not a full-on remake, but they did enough to where they polished up enough so that it just looks really good. Like, it doesn't, if you put this and the GameCube version side by side, they don't look like the same game. Like, they definitely did a good job of bringing it to the Switch. And I do agree that I think more remasters should follow that path. I mean, of course, it depends on budget. Something like Baten Kaitos, they just didn't care enough. I mean, I'm really surprised that game was even brought back to begin with. You know,
right?
I mean, I don't think the sales were really that high for the OG game and the sequel. I think
that's why they put the work in they put in.
Yeah, I mean, like the sequel was okay to my understanding. I don't think it was better than the first one. So, you know, it was one of those games where, you know, they're like, yeah, I mean, we can get a little bit, we can do a little cheap remaster for this, and the fans who really liked it back then, they can buy it and it'll make us a few bucks. We don't have to put that much effort into it. So I think that's really what it depends on, is like how much effort the developers are willing to put in. Because another example that I can give is the recent Persona 3 Portable remaster. I was watching a video on that where they pointed out how Atlas didn't do shit with that remaster.
They
they
did
took the
not.
PSP game and just ported it right on over. Like they even had the nerve to like do AI upscaling on the backgrounds, and it looks terrible in some spots.
How much they charge for it?
Wow.
20.
Yeah,
It's 20.
it's 20.
Okay. That's
Which
not
I
as
mean,
bad as I thought.
I get it, but for it to be like the definitive version, they could have done more with. I mean, heck, they didn't. They've done more Persona 4, so it's like why not
Yeah.
show P3 some respect? Yeah, I mean, Devin, your example with Shadow of the Colossus, that is the true definition of remake versus remaster right there, literally.
Right.
Trials of Mana, that's a remake. That's
Yes,
literally a
yeah,
remake.
yeah.
Final
I
Fantasy
wanna-
10.
I want to say something. You just made me think of something, Terrence, when you just mentioned the Persona 3 thing. It's almost like the word port was kind of like the original, like the beginnings of remaster, but Resident Evil Revelations. That's a game that they brought it to PlayStation 3.
Oh,
It looked better, but my problem with that was the controls felt like they just took them straight from the 3DS. Was like, here you go, same controls, but on PlayStation 3.
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's kind of like the conversation when you do a remaster or something like that. I think you need to kind of work stuff over. Like it shouldn't still feel like I'm controlling a turtle hooked up to the back of a semi or something. It should feel smoother if it's on a different console. I don't know. That's just when you brought that up, that made me think about Resident Evil Revelations.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like I said, I think there is a difference between the two. It just depends on how much work the developers want to put in to whatever route they're going. Do they want to remake the game from the ground up, or do they want to just kind of like to release the same old, but just make it look a little bit better? So I think it more so falls on the developer. There is a difference, but it just how much effort they want to put into it.
Right.
Okay. Will, what about you, man? Like, have you played Baten Kaitos, and does this like remaster? Does it make you less interested looking at it compared to like what you saw the work put in on like Metroid Prime?
I mean, I never got a chance to play it because that game, for some reason, always seemed like it was just scarce when it was out, at least around where I live. I can never see that game anywhere, no matter what store I call, whether it was Sam Goody, Walmart, the Toys R Us, whatever, they never seem to have it. So I'm just like, well, I guess I'll never play this game. But now I have a chance to. But seeing that they hadn't put much into it, I'm just kind of like, do I hop on my ship, or do I hop in my wallet? And I'm just like, I'm not sure.
It depends on how much they cost too, actually.
That definitely
It is both games. So if it's like both games for $40, I'm like, okay, well, that's not too bad. If it's full 60 for both games, I'm like, all right.
I'm very curious about that. I'll look at that right now as I talk. But
I feel like they should probably no more for 30 for this, man.
To kind of answer your question about the whole remake and remaster thing, there definitely should be like a difference with it, and it should kind of be kept. But I do think developers kind of need to get off their asses and stop like mixing them and like interchanging them so much, because that right there can hurt a game along the way. If you be like, oh, it's a remake, but then when you bring it to us, it's the exact same thing, just polished. Because Devin's thing with Shadow of the Colossus, you want to know what I thought about? Because I watched a video on it recently. Final Fantasy from Super Nintendo to go into here till we got to the pixel remasters. And I'm just like, and I learned that the history of that game is that each version of Final Fantasy 1, all of them had something wrong with them that made them like not necessarily hard to play, but it made something like screw up with the game with certain items or certain spells. Like some things didn't even do anything in the Nintendo version.
That's kind of like Chrono Trigger, right? Where Chrono Trigger, like the ports on that, like each of them have something wrong with them. Like the PS1 version is flawed compared to the Super Nintendo, et cetera, et cetera. Even the DS version,
Yep, all of them had something wrong with them, but they got fixed each time. But there was still something wrong the further you went down. Like each of them were flawed in some sort of way. But you can tell the difference between like the Pixel Remaster and what was out on the Game Boy Advance for Final Fantasy 1. You know what I'm saying? So it's a term that needs to stick, but it needs to be clarified. Because Metroid Prime Remaster looks amazing. How you make that look that damn good?
So actually, I'm gonna ask Rakeem this.
Okay.
As far as remasters and remakes, how much is that down to art style? Like Baten Kaitos, it's got its own unique kind of anime art style, and then like Metroid Prime got that kind of cartoony type style. What do you think, man?
Yeah.
I think, it depends on. It comes down to the effort the developers are putting into this particular remaster or remake. The art style does matter, like the cartoony art style they're going with Metroid Prime with the remake, a little more poppy with the colors, because of course the old game, like you said, had that filter on it, almost purposefully, because it was kind of supposed to be kind of like this kind of darker toned game, and you had a visor on, you were alien planet.
Yeah,
so
I
it
was just
kinda
gonna
made
say the
sense.
visor kind of played
Yeah.
into that as well.
Visor played into that, so it was almost purposeful. But as far as like the art style, I think I can't go with that excuse, because we've
Yep.
seen so many good examples of remasters and remakes now. When it comes down to it, let's be honest. This is a trend they're chasing because they know they'll make money off. And some studios take the approach of, let's get some of our older IPs and remaster and see what happens. And we might change a few things here, or we might take the whole thing and say F it. Where other studios are like, this is an opportunity for us to bring back an old IP and really like reimagine it for a new generation.
You know who
What's
I got to
up?
give credit to on this?
What's up?
And I hate to do it because they fucking suck, but like I gotta give them credit. That goddamn Suikoden,
Yeah.
that shit looks amazing. Like the remaster, like that shit, it looked like they putting some HD 2D type style to it. I'm like,
Looks
wait a
much better.
minute. That shit got me wanting to play it again. And I rarely ever play video games again, but I love that series so much. So
That's a good point, Sage. And that reaction you got, that's how you know when you see the effort. A great example. A couple years ago with the PS5 launch, Blue Point's remake of Demon Souls. Holy crap.
Yes.
I saw that. I was like, they really rebuilt this game and they did everything new animations. They approached the combat was the same. They tried to get the feel of Demon Souls, but still, made some new what's what I'm looking for, improvements in certain areas and things like that, especially with the animation side. And even if I've heard from people who played the game, they had Easter eggs in the game, and secrets and items that weren't in the original game, because they were fans of the original game, and when they remade it, they wanted to put the full effort in there. And that's really the big difference to me between like how people who approach the remasters and remakes. For some remasters, like we talked about earlier with the Final Fantasy VIII remaster, they wanted to bring that original vision. I feel like that's what the remasters are good for. Bringing the cold original vision of the game, how it was when you got it, and just up the visual fidelity and make it look better. Whereas a remake is like, all right, how does this game, if you took that game from then and put it in today's era, how would it play? And that's the real difference. And when it comes to like, in the case of Bates and Kaitos, this art style, you absolutely could have updated those visuals and really put effort into it.
I mean,
now, part of that,
you definitely could have. All I'm
Yeah.
saying is like it feels like, because Metroid has like a more cartoony type, art style, that it's a little, I don't say, I hate to use the word easy because game development is never really easy, but like it's easier than like something like some heavy anime style that you have to like do a lot of like what's the word, like you basically have to upheave the whole thing and just be like, all right, well, how do we make this look in this modern era? So I don't know, like I just kind of wanted to look at it from that perspective.
Oh, what you about to say, Will? Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just looking at to answer Sage about earlier. I think he asked about Baten Kaitos and its sales. Yeah, looking at what it says on Wikipedia, Namco made it their business to say, oh, we want 500K of these sold. In the first 2 weeks, it only sold 80 grand in Japan, but it sold double that in the first month in the US.
Are you talking about the OG one?
Yeah, just putting that out there, because the remasters don't come out till like summer.
They ain't getting 500K off this new one.
Yeah,
I'm about to say,
right now they have that prequel, and there was supposed to be some more games, but they ended up putting out 2 books, and then they had like a DS version of the game gear to come out. They cut that loose, and there was going to be a third one, but they cut that loose. So yeah.
I give a shout out to my homeboy when I was a kid, Jonathan Hurd. He was a big Bates and Kaitos fan. I used to go to his house and watch him play it on his GameCube many years ago when I was a little bitty Rakeem. But yeah, it could be some element to that, but man, Bates and Kaitos has such a cool style to it. I'm not taking the excuse, man. Like, really, if you would like that game like pop and like really put some effort into it, it'll look really good. You just gotta put the effort into it.
I mean, I agree with you, and like I will say I was in like a Twitch chat last night, and they were talking about remaking certain other Monolith Soft games, and they talked about remaking Xenosaga, and somebody was like, they basically linked like the Twitch streamer basically linked a link to Harada, and Harada was like on Twitter talking about like, yeah, they basically ran like a cost benefit analysis to like doing it, and they were like, it didn't work. We didn't see no money in remaking that, and they probably saw a tiny bit of profit in just doing like the bare minimum to like port this to the console.
Yeah,
and Switch does it's a little bit of bring a little bit of Switch magic for RPGs, and they like, oh, we get the sales off this. And they probably not looking for a lot, but whatever they get, they like, this is better than what we had, which was nothing.
Yeah,
what's up, Will?
My thing with the whole Xenosaga with the remake thing, the first thing that came to my mind was, if we gonna remake that game.
Let me rephrase it. It wasn't a remake. It was supposed to be like a remaster collection.
Okay, I got you. Okay, now in case of remaster collection, I could see something working out with that, but I was like, we talking about remaking?
Nah, remake is a whole.
I mean, because Xenosaga 1 is the only one that really sold like that. The others, 2 didn't sell that well, and 3 was like,
tell you about it.
Yeah.
The fact that 2 was in there, that's the reason why they was like, let's scrap this. 2 was in there, ain't nobody gonna even buy it. Nobody's gonna buy the collection.
3 was great, but it didn't have a lot of copies pushed out.
The streamer I was watching was like, ain't no point. They all sucked, and I was like, oh my god.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know about all that now.
I don't know about this
person.
I really hate that too, because I never got to play Xenosaga. I played Xenogears, but I never played Xenosaga, and I always wanted to play it.
Now, that's the one I want the remake for. Yes, Xenogears. I
want the remake for Xenogears.
I mean, can we get it, please?
Yeah.
Imagine if that got the FF7R treatment.
Yeah, it would need the FF7R treatment, because that's the problem. The game's not fucking finished. Like, the end of the game is like,
that's a good point.
They just start going text on you instead of like actually, because they didn't have time to finish the game.
Yeah.
Text like,
man,
real hard by his life.
And then all of this shit popped off. You like, man, it's like a comic book run that got cut short, and all of a sudden they just start shoving all the plot lines in at the end.
Yeah,
like,
how mad I would have been as a kid if I had got there, and I'm like, what is happening right now?
I do remember say that ending was like very just like,
the game. You read the rest of the game.
Here you go. Now this. It's like, what's going on? Like, what's happening?
We ran out of budget. Is what's happening.
Well, they're like some. I think I told Kim about there was some like plot where like they had a plant that was like making people into like canned food. If I remember something like that.
What in the Soylent Green?
I know, right? I gotta go.
I mean, you're probably right.
I was like, what is happening?
It's a great question. Okay, so I do have technically 2 last questions. One. How do y'all feel about Zelda going up to $69.99? Is that reasonable?
Nice.
I'll allow
it. I should have known that I set myself up for that joke. But do y'all find that reasonable? Like, because like ain't shit changed. Like it's releasing on the same Switch console that released Breath of the Wild. Like I know when the PS5 came out and the Xbox Series came out, they took it as an opportunity. They were like, hey, man, rising developer costs, yada, yada, yada. And so they drove the cost of the console, games up to like $69.99, $70. But like, ain't shit changed with the Switch. And like this game, it might run as good as Breath of the Wild did. But even that, it's like, oh, okay, but like, this ain't no 4K 60 frames per second. Like, y'all still want $70 for it. Like, what in the fuck? How do you feel about that, Devin? Is that reasonable?
No, because usually you up the price on a game in a new generation. You don't just be like, well, this game gonna cost 70. And I know why they doing this, because
maybe it'll come with an expansion pack. Like the 64, it'll come with the red cartridges. This will help your game run better.
This will boost the power.
The Rumble pack.
Now, it'll come with a Rumble pack.
Now, if it come with
like,
Rumble
pack was, I never knew what that was.
Yeah, it's just basically just Rumble.
Yeah, it just gave you just literally, your controller would just Rumble. That's all it was.
Back in the day, Rumble your controller was DLC. You had to. You didn't get that.
Man, I know, right?
But I think now if it came with like, let's say it had like a collection of the other games, like you get Wind Waker, Ocarina, something like that, I could say okay. Which I know they don't do often, which is weird because if y'all remember Master Quest on GameCube.
I do remember
When,
that. It was a 2 disc thing.
yeah, when
Was it?
Wind Waker came out, if you pre-ordered it, they gave you Master Quest, which was basically like a redone Ocarina of Time. They gave you that and I think the original version of it. I think that's what yeah. Now they did something like a little extra, but just like this, like Sage just said, we're in the same generation. It's not like switch to the next Nintendo console. If that was like, okay, all right, new console, more higher tech, more production costs, and okay, but I know what they're doing. They're like, yeah, Tears of the Kingdom, it's our flagship. This the one that's gonna end it all on the Switch.
That
like,
is
you gonna,
exact because they
Yep.
specifically said this won't be what they do going forward. And I'm like, what y'all really mean is this won't be what y'all do going forward for the Switch. But like when y'all get to the Switch 2, y'all gonna be like, hey, this is like they tested it out. Like, oh, okay, let's see if the people want it. And of course they do. Everybody gonna want Tears of the Kingdom. So like they gonna all pay $70. So I'm like, it just don't sit right with me because I know that it's still the old hardware and the old shit.
Yeah.
So
that's another good point. Say just made it. The game don't look that different. Like nobody said no. I'm not saying the game don't look good, but it doesn't look like worlds beyond the first Breath of the Wild. It looks like the same engine. It don't look that much better technically, like graphically. It still runs, but it still got a good art style. But to charge $70 for this, like that's. Now, if you look at something like, let's say, God or some God of War level type stuff, you get like, oh, that looked like they spent a lot of money on that. All right, $70. Breath of the Wild. Not that they didn't do the same thing, but I mean, you had like actual motion capture and facial breaking, all that stuff in that game. Zelda, this is like they don't have that. But again, like I just said, they like, we know you're gonna buy it. We could make the price $100. You still gonna buy it.
It's funny. I was watching a podcast on it's like a daily news podcast, and they on Kind of Funny, and they talked about like how much would you pay for Zelda, and like one dude was like, I'll pay. I'm sure he wasn't serious, but he was like, I've had more fun playing Breath of the Wild than I had on vacations, so I'd pay up to $1,200 for it, and I was like,
all right.
Hello.
He's the reason DOA had all that DLC. They know people like that exist.
Yeah.
I was like $1,200. I'm like, I don't know about that. I max could pay for like a dream game of mine. I might pay $100.
Yeah.
It feels like a game that I've always wanted. Like if EA was to nail that Iron Man game, like the best version of Iron Man ever, and they told me, Sage, you fuck with Iron Man, how much you paying for it? And we charging everybody else that. I'm like, well, the rest of everybody else finna pay $100 because I'm paying $100. I'll tell you, bro. Give me that game, bro. What you talking about? I get to be Iron Man in like an open world city, changing out armors and shit, customizing the character, fighting all the Iron Man's legendary villains. Like, I wouldn't even feel like I got ripped off because it's like, this is a game I dreamed about playing as a child. But like most games, I'm like, I'm not paying that. In fact, most games you lucky to get $60 out of me. Never mind 70, and you talking about 100 or more. I'm like, man, I'm not paying that shit. But I guess that's just the wave, right? Yeah. Like Keem, like, what do you think, man? Is it like reasonable to be charging $70
for that? No. I mean, of course, like you said, it comes with the wave. But look, man, Nintendo just trying to pull what Street Fighter did with Street Fighter 5. They put Luke in the game. You about to see his mechanics and the bullshit. That's the price range. You finna see the future. That's the future. They let them know right now. Get ready for the next battle.
Damn, they even quoted Tekken. That's crazy.
You better get ready for the next battle because the next battle is $70. You 70. But nah, man. Especially like on the same console. Can you imagine like? You just buy all the same games, like 70, everybody goes normal. Like, no, that's so weird.
I mean, they used to do that back in the day with old school cartridges. You never know what you was finna pay.
I was just finna say this weird. We say $70. It's like we say $7 high, but I remember something back in the day. I remember when the Neo Geo consoles, the cartridge was $200.
That was almost like an arcade machine, though, in a way, though.
But some of the other, like some of them Super Nintendo, they was like 80 to. I'm like,
Star Fox on the
Star
Super
Fox
Nintendo
was
was because that had to come with like what a different
a
chip,
special
right?
chip.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So that one was charged a little
Mode
bit more.
7 chip or whatever the fuck
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
Right.
Look,
Yep.
I ain't trying
And
to
that's
hear it.
Say it again, kid.
I ain't trying to hear it. I'm sorry. I saw someone break up that argument earlier, man. We be playing this on other games. What y'all complaining about? I'm like, I'm complaining because we don't go back to old bad habits. We know we're bad. I'm like, we paid for this. That wasn't a good thing. I didn't enjoy
It
that.
wasn't.
Why would I go back to
No.
that?
Yeah.
And we
Great
finally got
point.
like uniform payments on games, like, and let's be honest, we don't even really pay the $60 we do pay right now because of the DLC, because of the expansions, because of the microtransactions. We're already paying well and above that. So increasing those prices ranges is getting to a point where, like, if it gets too high, it's gonna become more of a luxury than it already is.
Yes.
You're gonna
Even
phase
the
out
sales have gotten out of hand. Like, it was a time you get a game on sale, it'd be like, all right, I'm gonna get the game, $30, $20, something like that. I bought Marvel Midnight Suns on sale, but I was like, let me get the DLC. I still wound up paying $53. I'm like, God, this is basically like I paid for the game, like back in the day, that'd be like I paid for the full price of the game. So like that's where we at now. Like, if you try to get the DLC, you damn near came off for the full 60.
Let me
pretty much.
drop some on y'all real quick. Put your tinfoil caps on real quick, man.
Oh no.
You know,
I put a fitted cap on. I ain't gonna put on tinfoil cap.
but King just mentioned that we just talk about the prices of games. Remember when the GameCube came out, right? It had a little small disc like this big, right? So, PlayStation, you got the regular size disc. You pay like $40, $50 for the game, right?
That is true.
Since the disc smaller, why were we paying the same price for the game? It's not even the same size disc. For the Switch, you're gonna pay $70 for this. When Legend of the Tears come out, $70 on that right there. You see that? It's actually not even this big. It's smaller. I think the Switch cartridge is smaller than this. $70.
Devin took our whole argument and threw it in the trash. Got us looking foolish out here.
Look,
Hey, man.
Whenever they come out with the next Nintendo console, they can charge it. They go upscale the charge.
Oh, there it is.
That's just what we're heading towards. But at the same time, like, do your experiments with the next console. Let's stick with the price range we got now. People are used to. Don't mess with us. We're heading to a freaking recession right now. I don't need nothing to go up.
Man,
too much shit going up.
you never lied.
Also, what Say said about certain games not running like optimally, like why am I gonna pay more for games that don't run at like the standard of what other games on consoles do?
Another good point is, back to your point, Sage, about sales. Nintendo games notoriously do not go on sale low very, very often. If they go on sale much at all. If you buy a
gotta
Nintendo
wait
game,
till certain parts of the year, and it's only gonna be the sale that they want. So they might go down to 50. If the game's 60, they might go at $48.99.
48, 45.
If it's an old ass game, you might get $29.99. Like them days of Nintendo Selects where you get like the 19, that shit gone. Yeah. So like you most of the time you paying full price. And to some people they fallen into that mindset or like that economy where they like, well, that's why I buy Nintendo games, because I know they're gonna keep their value. I'm like, man, I don't give a damn about that. Like, what you talk? Like, they keep their value, but it also means like I can never come in late. And it I don't know. It weirdly for me, if I don't get a game right around launch, I really don't want to pay full price for it. The further out I get from launch, the more I'm like, I'm not trying to pay full price for it. Like, after the first month, I'm like, I'll wait until it's a little lower in price, unless I just really needed that game and like it just was, different pay things is getting in the way. Well, otherwise, I'm like, man, I don't want to pay no full price for this game. But with Nintendo, they like, hey, man, if you don't get it at launch, guess what? 6 months from now, it's still gonna be $59.99, or in this case, I guess $69.99. What's up, Will? You had something you wanted to say?
I was gonna say, just in short, man, fuck Nintendo and they sales. Honestly, truly. I'm just being honest. Like, I'm sorry, but how the hell you gonna keep Mario Odyssey at $59.99 all this goddamn time? And what's so bad is that the way they slide themselves out for me is like this.
Bro.
You know how
it's no way Mario Odyssey is $59.99 right now.
You know how Sony always puts out their sales on the system and be like, hey, here's a sale. Nintendo kind of don't do that. The only way you'll know that sale happened is if you found a Twitter account that's being like, hey, there's an eShop sale going on. Other than that, you're gonna walk in on the last day of that sale. or you're gonna walk in the morning of the last day and that sale's gonna go away.
I'm hearing
That's how
you,
they
but I'm
even do
still
it.
struggling. Like, it's no way that game Mario Odyssey is $59.99 right now.
Don't
Like,
let me
that
go
game
look it
came
up.
out.
Bruh.
That's a launch. Well, it's not a launch game, but it's a launch year game. Like, that game came out
a few months
in
after launch.
December of 2017.
Yeah.
It's no way that's $59.99.
Hey man, that's like
Man.
Smash Melee when it came out toward the end of the GameCube's life cycle. It was still
like
hitting at like
$20,
$30. Yeah,
Yep.
it
And
never
you
dipped
brought up-
below 30.
And you brought up back in the GameStop day, because nobody go to GameStop no more. You could go in there, trade in the game. Hey man, I got some guy to beat all of them, man. I got God of War 3, man. I'm trading this in. All right, we get smooth 50 cents for it. What? God of War 3? 50 cents? You pull out doggone Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, $70. There you go.
$40 for it.
Yeah,
Bruh. I was
This is
Bruh.
disgusting.
Like years later.
I just dropped y'all that Mario.
I
Mario,
had to
man.
look. I'm like, I'm disgusted. Yeah, that's.
I mean, come off the memes. Come off the memes.
That's what the M stand for? That's what the M
Man.
stand for. It stands for money, not Mario.
we got to have money.
Monday.
Terrence, how do you feel, man? Is it reasonable for Nintendo? Like, I feel like we all gonna be unified, but I do want to ask, like, do you feel is it reasonable for them to be charging $69.99?
I mean, I'm gonna keep it short since everybody else has gone on to great detail about it. I mean, no, I don't think so. I mean, just no. I mean, for everything that everyone said, we're at the end of the Switch, or just I would like to think the end of the Switch. There's no reason to upcharge for Zelda, at least based on what they've shown us so far. I mean, I have no doubt that Tears of the Kingdom is going to be a great game. I have no doubt about that. But upcharging for it, unless there's some premium feature that they haven't talked about yet that's included in the game, and that's the reason why they're adding more into it, I don't see it. So, no, I just don't think this is justified. This is just Nintendo just being greedy. That's how I see it. They're gonna have to show me why you're charging an extra $10, and then I'll shut up. But until then, I think this just comes down to greed. That's all it is.
I 100% agree. Which, and I'm glad you said what you said, because that feeds into our last question. Is this the Switch's last year? Like, it feels like the Switch is getting old. Man, ain't no feel like it's getting old. Zelda, they say, is the last big title for the generation. There's that they say that's why they not at E3 this year. They don't have anything big to promote at E3. Like, it's just gonna be a lot of smaller titles. I don't know if I believe that. I do know I don't think that it probably ain't dropping this. It ain't gonna be no more of that. The Super Mario, there probably won't be another Super Mario for this generation. Even a 2D Mario, unless it's just like a remake of an older Mario game. I just don't see it. So let me ask y'all, do y'all think this is the Switch's last year? Does Nintendo try to milk the Switch for one more year, try to get that full 7-year generation out? Or is this it for them? And let me add on to that. When do you think you see the next Switch? Bear in mind, or the next Nintendo console. Bear in mind, the Nintendo Switch came out in March. It didn't come out in no fall. So do you think you see it in March, fall? Do you think it matters if they launch it whenever? Terrence, do you think it's the Switch's last year, or do you think they try to milk it?
I do think that this is the system's last year, although I will say I understand why Nintendo's like kind of dragging out as long as they can. I think just a few days ago, they announced that the Switch is the third highest selling console of all time. It's like the PS2, the DS, then the Switch. Which is insane. Wow. I mean, that's crazy that the Switch has sold that much. What'd you say?
They passed the PS4.
Yeah, they passed the PS4. That is crazy. So I can understand why Nintendo's trying to get as much out of the Switch as they can, because, I mean, it's been extremely lucrative for them. This is pretty much their new Game Boy, their new DS, etc. Like, it prints money. I know that was the joke with the Nintendo DS, is that it prints money. The Switch prints money. In terms of when I think we'll see the Switch successor or whatever, whether it's Super Switch Advance or just a completely different thing, I kind of feel like they're probably going to stick with the Switch. I think that they're going to, because this is just too profitable for them to, go a different route. But that's a whole other conversation. I think, because Sage, you do bring up a good point, is that the Switch came out in the spring. I kind of wonder if maybe like toward the tail end of this year, they make an announcement about it and then it comes out spring 2024. I feel like that's where we're going because with Tears of the Kingdom coming out this year, usually Zelda, and I've made this point before. I don't know if I made it on the podcast or not, but Zelda is usually like the sign of the next console coming. It's kind of been that way since the GameCube because with the GameCube, you had Twilight Princess that came out on the GameCube and it went into the Wii.
Like cross-gen.
Yeah, it's crossing with the Wii. And then with the Wii U, well, the Wii to the Wii U transition, that's a weird one.
That was a little off.
Many reasons.
But you still technically Skyward Sword was on the Wii, but it's also on the Wii U. So it kind of works the same way. Yeah, I guess Ocarina of Time too, although it doesn't quite work the same way, but yeah, in a sense, yeah, because it came out on
Majora's Mask.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying the fact that it was also on the GameCube, what they did with that.
Yeah, they did. I guess that was kind of like their first attempt at like a remaster in a sense. Yeah. And then the case with Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild was on the Wii U and it was also on the Switch. So I think we're going to see Tears of the Kingdom come out of the Switch, and it will also come out on whatever next console Nintendo has, and they'll do something different to it to where it will make the purchase worth it. Yeah, I think that's where we are. I think that this is the last year for the Switch. There's still going to be games that'll come out for it, no doubt. In 2024, I'm sure in the same way, Japan, they'll milk certain consoles until like the death of them. Like the PS2 got games for like quite a number of years
long after
you're done. The Dreamcast, Japan never stopped with the Dreamcast.
Yeah,
they never did.
They just kept going. So I think the Switch will be the same way. But yeah, I think this is going to be the last year for the Switch, and I don't think it'll be long before we hear about whatever Nintendo's working on next, just because it's time. I don't see them holding off for another year. I don't. I think that would be, it'd be wild if they hold off for another year, because I don't know what more you add to the Switch at this point. What are the games you have? The last game that I could possibly think they could add is Metroid Prime 4, and at this point, I think that might just be on the next system. So, yeah. That's my thoughts on it.
Rakeem, what do you think, man? Is this the Switch's last year, and like, or did they try to like milk it? And then like, when do you think we see the next Switch?
My question is, they probably wanted to be the Switch's last year. My question is the next console ready?
Well, you remember we had that Switch Pro back and forth for like a couple of years ago.
And we ended up getting
we never got it. What we got was the Nintendo Switch (parenthesis OLED model). You never actually got the Switch Pro, and I always thought that was because they couldn't get the chip right.
Right.
And I feel like they spent that
chip shortage and stuff.
Yeah, and I feel like they just kind of gave up on chips, like trying to get those chips, and like was like, okay, well, let's just start working on the Switch 2, Super Switch, whatever you call it. So,
yeah. I mean, I definitely see them finishing up this year as the last year for the Switch. The only concern I say was like, I'm not sure if the console was ready or the new vision for the console was ready yet, or maybe there was something else they wanted to get into, maybe some features they wanted to slide in there, so they were stretching it out. One thing I always lauded Nintendo for was they were smart enough to figure out a way to always stay outside the Sony Microsoft battle. And they just can't really have their own time and their own space, and there's nothing else competing with them but them. So they're gonna probably stick with that. So I know they're gonna try to get this out as soon as possible now that the PS5 and the Xbox One X, whatever the freak is called,
Xbox Series
Series X, the dust is kind of settled on those. They kind of slid into where they're gonna be. So I can see it coming out next year. Probably they'll try to get out by the spring. I kind of maybe see a fall release. I don't know. Something's up. This long cycle. Something's up with this. Just personally, I could be wrong. I think it could be like something was up with the tech, or they're trying to slide in more features, as many features they can get in before they can get out, before they have to cut stuff. Because usually when you have a new console come out, sometimes you'll have more features they want to get in there, but they cut them, like backwards compatibility in some cases. We finally got it with PS5, but we didn't get it with PS4. So that could be a part of it as well. But I can see it coming out maybe fall of next year, hopefully. There's really nothing else to play on it now. I I mean, unless we want to make some more remasters, we're gonna get some more Donkey Kong remastered. Maybe get a F-Zero
Nah.
remaster.
Give me my Xenoblade.
Xenoblade Custom Robo
X.
remastered. Yeah,
X never came to. X was like
Oh,
one of the
yeah, it
last
never
Wii U
did.
games that never made it over, and I'm like, hey, just give me X, bro.
you got the whole series on there now. Why'd I put X on there? I agree.
Yeah, that's exactly.
It's like the
So
one thing to keep Wii U selling, I guess.
they've been sold out. It ain't not one more Wii U out there. I bet you can't even find that console no more unless you
Well, I
go
think they
on
stopped
like eBay.
production on it, right?
Oh,
As they
absolutely,
should.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't get the reason why they're holding X hostage either. That doesn't really make any sense
That's
to me.
really weird to me.
Will, what do you think, man? Like, is this the Switch's last year?
I would definitely think this is. I definitely think this is the Switch's last year. And honestly, Terrence kind of gave the reason I was thinking earlier that how they kind of end a lot of their console cycles is on a Zelda. So I feel like with them having this being their thing now, this definitely could be the end of the Switch as we know it. I cannot say for certain. I'm not gonna be like, yeah, this is it. They going to the next console. I'm not gonna tell you that. And I'm not gonna sell you a dream because I can't even sell Raid to a Roach. So I mean, I definitely think the Switch is on its way on out. It's time to like get started on the next one because they've been lagging behind the other two consoles, and like Keem said, they kind of do their own thing where they just kind of on the outside, kind of looking in at Sony and Microsoft doing what they do, kind of fighting while they just sitting there like, well, we got families, so you know. And I think we need another console out of Nintendo, but the question is when, where, and will it kind of be the
How
next
much?
step up? That's
How
my
much?
thing. Will it be the next step up, and will it be able to do 60? Will these games perform? Hell, I even got a better question. Are we still gonna be on the cartridge medium? That's what I'm looking at too. Will we still be
Great
on that
question.
medium?
Great
Will
question.
we be on the cartridge medium, and will those games be able to play these older games be able to play on the next system? That's what I want to know. Like, will they try that?
What's up, Terrence?
One thing I was going to say that just popped into my head is if they do another Switch, they got to make sure, and I'm sure there's maybe part of the reason why there's been a delay with it. Like, how do you make it different from the Steam Deck in a sense? Like, because the Steam Deck has always been kind of considered like essentially a more powerful Switch,
By not charging $6,000.
Yeah, I guess that
No,
is one
seriously,
way.
like the
Nah, he's
Switch
right.
is like 300, I think. Well, no, I know the Switch is 300. The cheapest, because me and Rakeem talked about this, the cheapest Steam Deck is I think 400 and something.
Yeah.
And the most expensive Steam Deck is like 650.
Yeah.
I do not like when you put out, at least especially at once, so many different versions.
Oh yeah.
Of a house console. Like I know you do that over time, like you have a light version, a pro version, whatever. But like they did this with the Steam box and it didn't work out with that. Steam Deck at least seems to be way more popular than Steam box was.
I think
So
the
they found
specs
some
are the
success
same. The difference I think is like
Memory?
PS3 hard drive space. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
but
just something that just came to my mind was just like maybe that's something that they're working on is trying to make it not like the Steam Deck in a sense.
I tell you what. Well, Devin, what do you think, man? Is this Switch's last year, and when do you think we see the Switch?
Yeah, I definitely think, like I said earlier, with the Nintendo titles, 2 Zeldas usually is a signal of going on to the next console. I would say Mario games, but I remember I think GameCube only had one Mario game, if I'm not mistaken. That was Sunshine.
No, they had Galaxy.
No, Galaxy was
That
the
was-
one.
yeah.
Galaxy was the Wii.
Yeah.
Galaxy
so-
was
Galaxy
You're
and
right.
Galaxy 2
Sunshine
But they-
was the only one.
No,
They kind of
actually,
changed.
yeah, Wii was like one of the. I think Wii was the first system where it had like
Like,
2
multiple,
Marios. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously
But,
not including like Nintendo and Super Nintendo. You know, yeah.
Yeah, but up until that point, like 64 had just one defining Mario game. GameCube had one. Then they started doing multiple ones after that. So again, the most constant one is like the Zeldas, like 2 Zeldas, and hey, we on to the next one. I think it is the last year. I think looking at the releases for most of the Nintendo consoles, it was like between fall and winter. I think possibly a fall or winter release. Because most of them were like November, like October, November. One of them was like September. So I think I'm gonna say like a fall/winter release for it. But I definitely think this is it. I mean, they're even showing with this list from this Nintendo Direct. It's like all these remasters just kind of showing a little stuff, but the big one is Zelda, and then you got Metro, like the Shadow big one. And that could be just getting hype. Maybe people like Terrence said, maybe Metroid Prime 4 is on the next Nintendo console. So this is kind of trying to get hype. Oh man, here's Metroid again, Metroid Prime. Y'all remember this, right? Get ready for it. So I think it's gonna be the last go around for Switch.
So I think fall, like I noticed a lot of y'all said fall. I think fall is insane because it won't be this fall, it'd have to be next fall. And the rumor is Zelda is the last big title. Like there's nothing else coming. And I just can't imagine you sitting there trying to make the Switch work for basically a 7th year on like B and C tier franchises. You know, like I think it's insane that Zelda's the last title. Like if they repeat the Switch entirely and the next Switch comes out in March, that means that for the next 10 months following Zelda's release, there's no A-list title coming. Like you got the last A-list title. There's no Mario. There's no nothing.
That's kind of how it was with the GameCube.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
like that was, and that used to be considered a flaw of Nintendo's.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just built in. Like maybe that's who they are, and they just like, hey, you know, we Nintendo, and also because like they do clearly hold games. Like supposedly the rumor is they sat on Metroid Prime Remaster for like a year. Like it was done, and they was like, we'll come back and put it out when we feel like it. And then there are also rumors, and if this rumor is true, I can see them holding out until next spring and it'd be fine. There's a rumor that Nintendo has been working on remastering Twilight Princess and Wind Waker and stuff like that. And if that's the case, then I could totally see them, you know, putting that game out in the fall. And you like, you know, you put those two out, you know, sometime in November. And, you know, that's a big enough gap from Tears of the Kingdom for them to be like, okay, you know, people will come in, swarm through, buy it, because that is a Zelda game. Zelda fans are fanatical, so I could totally see it. Otherwise, like, I just don't know what you do. Like, you just gonna sit there and you know, hold nothing for 10 months. Like, it don't seem like a wise decision, but like, I don't know. But like, and even if that's the case, like, to next fall, bro, that's
a wow.
I mean, like, okay, maybe they don't consider Metroid Prime 4 a big game. I don't know. I feel like that's insane because like Metroid is just such a big franchise to like gamers. But maybe they don't consider Metroid Prime 4 a big game, and they got that in the works. I've heard some stuff about F-Zero. Maybe that could be something they put out. And you know, Nintendo has been kind of shitting on F-Zero for years, so. If they ever did put out an F-Zero game, they probably like, that ain't no A-tier game, you know. The fans lose their mind. They'd be like, oh shit, F-Zero, you know.
Will was killing me with the Tony Baker stank face.
Yeah, but like, you know, Nintendo, they always seem like they just don't respect F-Zero. That's why they put some like anti-gravity type racing shit in Mario Kart, because they just like, hey man, fuck that franchise. We don't need that no more.
We don't like it.
Yeah, they looked at F-Zero and said, we don't like it.
You know what's funny? That Link is in Mario Kart and not Captain Falcon.
Yeah.
Ooh.
They said fuck Captain Falcon and all them other dudes to be in F-Zero. They said we don't want none of that. Take that wacky racist from the future shit the fuck out of here. Like, I guess that's what they said, because they seem like they don't care.
They don't.
But like, maybe
like
I have heard rumors that F-Zero is coming in the near future. And if so, even if it's like I won't say big budget game, but even if it's like a serious, not just like a remaster of what is it, GX was the last one?
Yeah, GX.
Yep.
Yeah, even if it's a real new F-Zero game, I can totally see Nintendo being like, that ain't a big game to us. You know, a big game to us is Smash, a big game to us is Pokemon, a big game to us is Zelda, 3D or 2D Mario. You know, those are our big games. Like anything else, like so what? You know, put it out. Even Star Fox, which
Boy,
I would
Star Fox, man.
I would like a Star Fox that's not just a fucking remake of Star Fox 64. I don't know if we ever get one, but you know, maybe
one that plays like 64 at least.
Yeah, I don't want no more of that, because it wasn't Zero a lot like that too.
Yeah,
just kind of a redo of 64 a little bit.
Trying. Didn't it also incorporate stuff from Assault, like the ground stuff? I can't remember. I mean, don't quote me. I could be totally misremembering. So I mean,
that's what I mean. But yeah, I do think this has to be the Switch's last year. At a certain point, you're lagging too far behind third-party developers. At a certain point, it's well, when I say third, I mean like the ones that develop for Sony and Microsoft. At a certain point, you're lagging too far behind what Sony and Microsoft can do, and that just hinders third-party developers way too much. It gets to a point where they just like look at the Switch and it's just like, you know how like eventually with cross-gen games, eventually the main studio's not doing those games anymore, and they have to go subcontract out to like get another studio to develop the same game, but it's never the same game. It's always just like a way worse version of the next gen version of the game. That we get into that point, and you never want to be there. Like you want to upgrade your console as much as you can, make something that is close to the PS5 and Xbox Series, even if it's not that close enough so that like it's not that much of a pain to develop for it. So yeah, I do think this is the last year, and I hope that we do see a few more like, you know, B and C tier games. And like, I know it's going to be a lot of Nintendo hardcore fans upset, furious over the next few months, but like, hey man, y'all gonna have to get over it.
They can kiss my ass,
they put out all the major franchise, bro. It's over with. But yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up for this week's episode. If you liked it, I need you to do us a few things. I need you to hit that subscription button on YouTube. I need you to follow us on Twitter and on TikTok. Don't just check us out. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everybody. Tell your coworker. You might make a new friend. And do me a personal favor and have an excellent week. Peace.